Hey, what's up, classic TV fans? My name is Rick9G. Thank you so much for joining me, and I also want to say thank you so much for all of you who have been subscribing to the channel. We are so close to 130,000 subscribers, which is amazing and such a wonderful number. And that is due to all of you and your support. Today we're going to be focusing on the Twilight Zone and more specifically the episode The Howling Man. Now I am going to give a spoiler warning right here. Yes, this show has been on the air and this episode for over 60 years, but many haven't seen it, and yes, there's a very big surprise ending that I'm definitely going to ruin. It's the only way that I can talk about this topic, so you have been warned. I'm going to talk a little bit about the episode and essentially the whole plot, and then get into the scene, the crux of the matter in regard to this amazing special effect that took place in 1960 and why it was so groundbreaking at the time and how it's still so impactful today. Now, this originally aired, as I mentioned, in 1960, November 14th actually, and it was written by the amazing, as Rod Serling would say, Charles Beaumont. And along with Rod Serling, who gave his input and a little bit of writing skills as well. Now, in this one, which is a fantastic one, let me know in the comments below if you're a fan of this episode, The Howling Man. It is definitely in my top 20 list. It's not like my go-to favorite, but it is really well done, really well written, and just an overall good episode. Now, the story takes place just after World War I with a character named David Ellington. Now, David was caught in a storm and pretty much gets lost. He's really tired, pretty much on the edge of delirium, and he comes to this, what we could only call a hermitage or a kind of an abbey. And when he comes, he is first turned away by the men there. And he hears this really creepy howling, one which bothers him and the others there as well who are present in this abbey. We'll just call it an abbey for now. Now he's drawn to the sound and he comes upon this man who seems very gentle, very nice, this bearded man, and he's locked in a cell. Now he has been imprisoned here by one of the men at the actual abbey, Jerome in fact, they call him Brother Jerome. He's the head of that essentially order, cult, whatever you want to call it, who is also a bearded man, and he claims that the man in the cell is insane. But the prisoner begs release. He wants to get out of there. Now, David confronts this Brother Jerome and says, hey, why is this man in here? What is going on? And Brother Jerome says, this is no man. This is the devil himself. And he's been in there for around 5 years, and he's held there by this little piece of wood, this little staff. Now, David is in fact convinced, or we could say, hey, this explanation makes sense. But he's still really inquisitive, and he decides to sneak away to the cell and release the prisoner, who, at an instance, transforms into the devil and disappears into this flash of light and this great big puff of smoke. Now, after World War II, realizing what this man has done, David decided to pretty much devote himself to recapture this devil, and he succeeds. Now, he makes preparations to ship this captive back to this abbey where he was, or the hermitage, but he tells his housekeeper who's present there, hey, be very careful. This howling man who's behind this door, don't even open the door. Don't worry about it. And we see that tiny staff again. It's just very, very interesting. And as soon as David leaves, she lifts a small piece of wood and the door swings open again. It's like this never-ending pattern. And the scene that I really want to talk about is pretty much that transformation scene of the actor himself, Robin Hughes, into quote-unquote the Howling Man or the devil. Now, I really, really like this episode because it gives us this just drawing of this man who essentially is confused, because as you're watching the episode, it could swing both ways, right? That this prisoner needs to be set free because it's just unjust and unfair. But then you have this doubt of, wait, maybe these men here in this abbey are right. Maybe they're correct in that this man there's something wrong with him, that he's evil and so forth. So there's that back and forth, which is really, really interesting. And then that surprise where, oh my goodness, the men there were correct. And we see that kind of terrifying transformation. Now, you may not know that the writer of this episode, Charles Beaumont, was actually not happy when he saw that there was this literal transformation of this man from this prisoner into the devil. He liked the idea more. He wanted it kind of to be seen as more figurative and it be more of a metaphor in that sense. However, this was a TV show, and as the director said, they didn't want people to see a feather poke behind a rock. They wanted to see 3,000 Indians right in front of the camera, and that's what they did. So this literal transformation of the actor Robin Hughes into the devil involved two different approaches. First, as the prisoner steps from his cell, the lighting changes and suddenly his face is subtly but dramatically changed. Now, before, his face had looked benevolent and nice, but then it looked evil. That was achieved with makeup, and there were no cuts when they do this. It's essentially 100% makeup. So the trick was actually using a red-green filter, and what they did was they transferred between red and the green makeup, and when the filter would be changed, you would essentially only see what they wanted to. So the prisoner makeup was in one color, and then the devil makeup was in the other color, and the camera would pick it up based on the filter. So it would be a smooth transition between one to the other. And of course, you wouldn't see the red or the green because it was in black and white. And so that really stark transformation was really impactful for us on screen. Now remember, this was still 1960, and the people who made this, the cast and crew and the people who essentially directed and produced this, they had seen previously many transformations from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Wolfman, but what would happen, the change would become kind of stark. There would be an immobile actor, and then the changes would become suddenly. It would be like a dissolve, and it was very obvious, and the makeup would change. It was like very basic stop motion, and they didn't want to do that. They wanted the actor to be moving the entire time so that you wouldn't appear to have a pause in the motion or a pause in the action. So what they did was they had a long corridor that they used to film, and from the time that the actor started the makeup change, they had him walk very fast down the corridor. Now at the end of the corridor, he turns and is now transformed into this devil, and he dissolves into the puff of smoke. So they had the camera on a dolly, and they timed it so that they ran exactly the same speed every single run from one side of the corridor to another. Between the audience and the actor, there was a series of pillars. The pillars were used to make the changes between the makeup. They would essentially cut at those moments when the actor would be behind the pillar. So they would make the entire walk at full speed, and they would go with him at full speed all the way in every form of makeup. Makeup number 1, makeup number 2, makeup number 3, and so forth. And they would just cut at the pillars. They would edit it later along, and it would become a cohesive piece that obviously looks very stark and pretty drastic when you look at it on camera. It looks pretty good. So what that essentially created was it created the illusion that the actor never stopped moving and that the camera never stopped moving as well. Now for some, a lot of people actually critique this. They say that the final makeup that was achieved on the actor was too literal. It was too devilish. It was absurdly long nose, pointed ears, horns, and it was kind of a caricature of the devil, like what we think, and it wasn't a more subtle look. Now, I would love to know your thoughts here. Was it too extreme of a transformation? Was it just like, okay, this is hokey, come on, the horns, the cape, what we usually think of? Or was this transformation good? I can tell you that many people have told me that they absolutely love this episode, and I mean, that's a climax of the episode. So now that you know how the trick and the illusion was done, I love to read your comments down below. I always look forward to it. Thank you so much. If you do want to see more Twilight Zone, let me know in the comments below some of your favorite episodes, and don't forget to check out my playlist for Twilight Zone where I've made about a dozen videos on the Twilight Zone, more coming soon. We'll see you next time, and don't forget, be hopeful. Thank you to everyone for the support, especially my Diamond tier patrons: Citizen Kane 359, David D, Greg S, Kevin K, Ricky, Sally N, Ulysses the P, and Vito L. If you want to join the Patreon family, links are in the description. Thank you.